Down to Earth, brought to you in association with the Musée de l'Homme.
Hello, you're watching Down to Earth with Marina Birch and Mairead Dundas. This week we're tackling what is one of the world's greatest inventions and yet most dangerous discoveries.
Plastic. Since its creation a century ago, the petroleum-based material now invades every corner of the planet, and production is only increasing.
The counter in the corner of this screen will tally how much plastic is made over the course of this show alone. But first up, let's take a look at what really happens when we throw our plastic away.
This is the story of 3 used old plastic bottles. The first, along with countless others, ends up in a landfill, one which expands and grows every day. Rainwater pours through the waste, absorbing toxic particles as it goes. It creates a harmful liquid, leachate, which poisons not just the soil, but the groundwater too, and the entire surrounding ecosystem. The second bottle floats along on streams and rivers, all the way to the ocean. That's where it decomposes, turning into microscopic particles of plastic that stay floating around in the water. Fish mistake the bigger pieces for food, which leaves them feeling full when they're really starving to death and even poisoning the food chain, from the smallest little fish all the way to our dinner plates. The last bottle is much luckier. It gets recycled, brought all the way to a special factory. It's crushed, flattened, and compressed into a block, and then shredded. It's now become the raw material ready to be turned into something new and begin a new cycle all over again.
Today, the equivalent of 1 truck of plastic is released into the ocean every minute, where most of it can remain for hundreds of years.
That's unless a band of Spanish fishermen step in. Off the southern coast, these newly appointed waste collectors now consider a bounty of plastic part of their morning catch.
Battling against the wind and rainy weather in this corner of southern Spain, the crew of this trawler are heading out to sea. The fishermen drop their nets. In a few hours, they'll find a bounty of sardines and other seafood, but also things that aren't native to these watery depths. After scouring the seabed for 7 hours, this is their catch.
Look at that. I don't even know what that is. There's bags, a can, even a pair of trousers. It's pathetic.
Today's haul, 80 kilograms of fish, 20 kilos of plastic. Litter thrown onto the side of the road, transported by wind and rain, and ending up in the sea. The fishermen lose at least half an hour separating the rubbish from their catch. Fish that still fit to eat despite the eye-watering levels of pollution. Up until last year, the rubbish would have been thrown back into the sea. Now it's sorted into these special bins provided by a local recycling company. More than 150 Spanish seamen in the region have taken on the dual task of fishing and cleaning up the sea. They've collected a whopping 33 tons of marine litter over the last 7 months alone. Dirty, rusty items that still have value, and trash that can be recycled. Some 250 tons of sea garbage is processed here every day.
Under this light, the machine detects the type of material. It sucks up only what can be recycled and rejects the rest.
Out of the 33 tons of trash gathered from the Mediterranean, only 10% can actually be recycled. But its journey is not over yet. 450 kilometers away in Girona, this company is specialized in spinning. The plastic is melted and transformed into synthetic fibers. Some machines had to be adapted in order to treat plastic found in the sea, because it's often deteriorated and therefore more difficult to spin.
We got around 15 tons of plastic from the sea and we've already transformed 5 tons of it. For now, such waste represents a small percentage of our activities, but we want that to increase because it's a good idea.
Marine litter can go from the seabed to the shop floor, re-emerging as a jacket, a t-shirt or a backpack. This brand plans to launch a collection of clothing and accessories entirely fashioned out of recycled plastic from the sea.
A decade ago, she was the fastest solo round-the-world sailor, becoming Britain's youngest dame. But today, Ellen MacArthur has turned her back on the sea to crusade for the planet.
The record-breaking yachtswoman agreed to speak to us about a problem she knows all too well.
Well, first of all, I never ever thought I would leave the sport of solo sailing. But that sport taught me something. And that is when you set sail around the world, you take with you everything you need for your survival. That's food, that's fuel, that's medical equipment, that's spares for the generator, that's everything. And you take the minimum because you have to be light to have a chance of breaking the record or winning the race. And then when you're out there, you really understand what those finite materials mean to you. You know what finite means because what you have on the boat is literally all you have. There is no more. And then I suddenly realized in 2005 that our global economy is no different. It's entirely dependent upon finite materials we only have once in the history of humanity. And that made me realize that suddenly our entire economic model needed to shift. The way we use materials within the economy needed to shift. If we have finite materials, surely we would use them in a way which can recover them and feed them back into the economy. A little like life itself has been for billions of years. There's never been waste. Everything breaks down and turns into something of value. Why can't the technical economy be like that? The plastics, the metals be like that also. Fish statistics are horrendous in that by 2050 we will have the same amount of plastic within the seas as we do by fish by weight. So how can you build a system which is inevitably one which can run in the long term and which doesn't accrue more and more plastics in the oceans every year? Unless we look at that whole system, we're never going to fix the problem, because ultimately, every piece of packaging that hasn't been incinerated is effectively still here today. It's still out there somewhere. It's either landfilled or out within the environment. So we need to change the entire system, which is a huge challenge, but we believe is entirely possible here at the Foundation. But what we need to do is, when we use plastic, to design that product, that material, that packaging, whatever that might be, to fit within a protocol whereby we know that plastic can have another life. That plastic can be returned into a biobenign material, or that plastic can be turned into something which can have value once again.
Like Ellen MacArthur, others are fed up with seeing their oceans filled with rubbish.
So 2 Australian surfers created a type of trash can for the sea.
The sea bin, as it's known, is designed to float on the surface of the ocean and suck up the rubbish, be it plastic, paper, oil or detergents, using an electric pump. Their invention has become a viral sensation, attracting more than 120 million views online. The duo have signed their first test and development deal with French Mediterranean port La Grande-Motte.
A typical plastic bag is used for just 20 minutes and takes several centuries to degrade. That's why many countries are now trying to limit or control their use.
Rwanda has gone all out by banning all plastic bags since 2008. England has introduced a fee for throwaway plastic bags, and this year France will begin to phase out plastic bags in its shops. So let's take a look at what other options exist.
Cotton, biodegradable plastic or paper, the main planet-friendly alternatives to the classic plastic bag. But which one to go for? We begin with a leading company in the paper-making industry. The main materials used here come from France and Northern Europe. The product is sold on large-scale distribution, heading to shops and markets. The owner hopes the recent ban on plastic bags will double his sales and allow him to employ a further 30 staff. So what's the verdict? On the downside, paper bags are twice as expensive as disposable plastic ones, but they're becoming more and more sturdy and recyclable. Quality is also found in cotton bags. Here, around 50 looms weave threads 24 hours a day, with 46 employees watching over them.
We work at 1,000 picks a minute for the bags. The machines currently have a productivity rate amongst the best in the world.
But the making of these bags takes a trip around the world. The cotton is organic and comes from India. Then the French company spins it into fabric in the town of Épinal before sending it on to be printed near Lyon. It's then sewn together in Tunisia. These bags are sold at €2.50. Here too, there are hopes for a spike in production. The disadvantage, they're sold for 1.5 times more than reusable plastic bags, and a lot of transportation goes into their making. On the plus side, they're enduring and recyclable. Then there's the third solution. This is the material that could replace plastic. These French potatoes, inedible but rich in starch, are crushed and dried. The extract is mixed with a copolyester, a biodegradable substance which comes from oil. When the material emerges, it looks a lot like traditional plastic, but it can break down with household compost. It's a solution being tested by mass producers.
We're going to start up probably late next year in industrial production, and there will be really huge quantities. We're talking billions of bags and big sums of money.
The downside here, the bags are 2 to 4 times more expensive than regular plastic. The advantage, they're more waterproof than paper or cloth, and they're compostable. We're told they're as strong as plastic bags, so we went to check with someone who uses them all day long.
You can tell right away it's not the same material.
But still, you can certainly get a lot of oranges in there.
Yes, but they're less resistant. I can feel it. You see, these ones are totally resistant. It's very different. But biodegradables, certainly better. We'll just have to put less in them. We don't have a choice.
Our conclusion, all 3 solutions have proven ecological benefits, but all 3 are more expensive than plastic. So will it be the seller or the buyer who pays the difference?
That's all from us this week. You can see that since we've been together, nearly 7,000 metric tons of plastic have been made in the world.
Marina, that's the equivalent of nearly 800 elephants. That brings us to the end of this week's show. Thanks very much for joining us here on France 24, and we look forward to seeing you, as always, next time.
À bientôt.